developers, get involved into teaching at schools and putting that into it and making it a full day event. But that's not your model. Is that correct? Like your
Yeah, I'm
model
kind
is,
of I'm not a fan of the one-offs. I'm sure I could fill my schedule. And again, I'm full time independently doing it for, this is like the fourth year. So it's pulling in a lot of information and assets that I've had for doing it for, province-wide development programs, and just really trying to apply it at the micro level. But yeah, like I just don't believe fundamentally, and it's part of the whole scenario, I think, that where we're in today. And Wally said it the best, like the kind of the lack of in minor hockey is why there's a whole industry for people like me in spring and summer, and because people don't feel fulfilled throughout their winter minor hockey season. And if they do, it's all luck on who ended up being their coach, or by luck, maybe their association did have a really great mentorship and development program. But yeah, you do have it right. Like it's not based on coming out once in a while. It's trying to, as best as we can. My vision is create the locomotive model in Canada, in rural Manitoba, in Winnipeg, wherever it might be, because we have nothing near that system where it's top down from the pro club, junior club down to the minor club, where they have those professional coaches working within the organization. But within our Canadian minor hockey volunteer system, like, here, okay, let's try to get some consistency, and I can help be that pillar of consistency from your U15 down to your U9. And the proper way to look at it is from U9 up to U15, because again, we're talking long-term development, and we want to make sure that at U9, here's what's important. It doesn't matter if you go to provincials or what. That may be a byproduct of it, of some success this season, putting in some good time and work. But we want those kids ready for U11. From our experience at U11, here's what's usually missing: U13, U15, etc. And once you get up to those ages, it's like, okay, how many guys from your little town are going to be on the AAA team in your region? Because when we look at the roster the last 3 years, there's none. So what does that tell you? That's a long-term indicator. Doesn't mean every birth year is the same, but more often than not, if we're just hoping that, hey, this birth year is going to be good, or get lucky, that's usually not the case. It's usually because there was a good coach or a good program or something along the way that helped them, whether it was through their minor hockey program, or they went outside in the spring and summer and did a lot of extra development. They may have that, right? So my overall philosophy is I want to try help them in the season as much as possible. I have no problem with spring hockey. I have a problem with spring hockey going into July, because that's not spring. We need that to be well over by. For me, it's May long weekend. June in Manitoba, it's not much different in Alberta, I guess, but June in Manitoba there's some precious days there. Like we're in winter and sleet and snow for 8 months out of the year. Like I want to maximize all those days outside in June, and I don't want to be under a roof and on an ice sheet during that time. And I don't want that for my kids. And if it is going to be in the summer, I want it to be skill development, skill based, not competitive.
So another question I have for you. So when you go do your skill development, you evaluate the kids and that sort of stuff. Obviously the individual skills, and one of my pet peeves is how weak our hockey programs have become on our offensive entry. So do you do the skill development and then add the tactical part of doing the entry as part of the skill development to help? Because what I've seen a lot of skill developers do is they come out and they do the skills, but then the tactical part, of the offensive entry, a rush, it doesn't get correlated into it. And so it's something that's become weaker with time, because the individual skills, everyone's coming down that ice and they're going to use their individual skills, but they don't work with the other, players on the tactical part of it. How do you deal with that, Kyle?
Can you still hear me? I put my earphones in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's kind of, again, part of that overall plan, because you come for a one-off, you're not going to be able to progress to that point. The idea is to build towards that, and I think breakouts are always the biggest one. Entries are huge; those are probably two of the biggest ones. But what are we talking about with those breakouts? Support pass, opening up. Those are the simplest ones. Accepting a pass, fundamentals with where your hands and your blade are. Those are things we got to dial in on, and then whatever you draw up will start to get significantly better. It doesn't matter if it's even drawn up. You're just going to be cleaner. So we I'm not afraid to touch on those things. We don't set it up as like an XO tactical system session, but it's always kind of teasing, because again, they love hearing about it more than the simple skill. So I always kind of tease them that way, is like, hey, here's how we make sure your breakouts are eventually going to be good, and that. And then just while we teach, you got to have it's just constant with how to open up, how to support, how to attack with speed. Those concepts are in a lot of different drills, and eventually you got to make sure it progresses to that area of the ice, right? So if you're doing some concepts like that are maybe in a quarter station or something, but they may not understand where exactly that fits in a full ice gameplay. So you got to make sure it progresses. It may not be a full ice drill, but you got to make sure it progresses to an entry over the blue line.
Do you feel it's also part of the skill development part, the final chapter, how to use that skill in the actual game?
Oh, absolutely. Because then if you can't use it in a game, it's really
not
a skill.
Can I interrupt please for a minute here on this? I coached Kerry years ago, so I think he knows where I'm coming from. I work with Tom and Kyle. My skill work is totally tactical skill work relative to breakout. And I did this with Tom. And one question I have for everybody is, how do you evaluate yourself? Well, I evaluate myself based on how the team performs after I practiced, and do I see it happening in a game? And the only time I haven't coached, but I work with Tom on breakout. So you talk about opening the hips, and I'm talking about biomechanics here. The fundamental breakout skill is the receiver front foot stopping and T-starting, which is opening the hips and facing the puck and providing a one-hand target. So the target is obvious, and they must come to the goal line. It's repeated. The skill of stop and T-start targeting and reception is built into the breakout pass receiving. And I have a progression that leads deliberate practice of the tactical skill to breaking out, to the low winger, and to the timing of a center, with the defenseman retrieving, eventually working them all together, and in fact using the goaltender as a passer before you use the retrieving defenseman as a passer. So that sequence, I think I did it with Tom in one or two practices, and the evaluation was in the next game, seeing them break out and get an outnumbered attack out of breakout so quick and fine. So that's, to me, is the art, Kyle, of, and Kerry made the point. There's a lot of great skill work, but I've seen skill guys go on the ice. It's icing on the cake. It's stuff I can't even do with my footwork and edges. But what I do is simply, I know will help in a game. So another example, I worked with Dave King in the late 80s with the national team. I was a defensive tactical skating coach. And that was my area because I played for Father Bauer in European ice, knew how big it was. Dave had me come in and work with him. And was asked to assist at a Spengler Cup. We had 10 Canadians from North America and 10 Canadians, all college players, CIS and NCAA. That was our team. George did a double regroup in attack drill the first practice. Big ice. The defenseman couldn't skate on a double regroup. They couldn't pass. I just could see they couldn't transition skate on the double regroup, go forward. So I asked them for 10 minutes to master the skating skill of going forward and going backward and big ice. Then they went back to the drill and they got it in 10 minutes. So the ability to see the drill not working and what's the tactical skill and how do you work on it, that to me is the art of what you're doing. So Carrie's question is, I want to see what you do apply in the game. And I think kudos to the skill work that you're doing through Hockey Canada, because Tom Malloy, when he said he watches all the camps, we watched the under 18 together. They were the best tactical practices I've ever seen in my life. The skill sessions were some of the best tactical skill drills because I saw what they were working on in terms of the defenseman's agility, skating, was what they need to work on. And the under 18 team, when it played in the Lincoln Cup, it all showed in the result. So the evaluation of what you do, I think what Hockey Canada is doing on the guys' side at that elite level, especially at the younger ages, they've made a pretty good connection of tactical skill to tactical drill, game-like drill, with specific decision making built in. But if you don't have those skills and couple it with the decision making, you don't have the game performance. So I just wanted to throw that in. To me, the ultimate is the result in the area of play and the positivity of the breakout, it working with timing, support being low enough in order for doing it. It's all hockey sense, which is awareness of where to go, when to go, whether you have to come to the goal line or you can open your hips earlier and target earlier. So Carrie, I think that's the essence of it. When you're talking your level of hockey, I've watched coaches do drills and they did a 2-on-1 drill and the defense didn't know how to play a 2-on-1, let alone the forwards doing an eye up or a cross drop or a cross keep. There's no tactical part of it built in. So I think people that are on this understand what I'm talking about. You're working with coaches that may not.
Wally, I think that's where the pressure and making sure you progress to a 1-on-1, 2-on-1, those types of things, anything that can force you to read time and space, manipulate time and space. And then that's where the small area games are so huge too. That's a huge part of every session. I think that's underused. I think coaches will say, oh yeah, we do small area games, but really all they're saying is we do 5 minutes of it at the end, right? That's not enough.
Well, and they don't, and Kyle, from what I'm seeing is that they're not really adding the skill element into that. Some of those smaller, they won't stop something and say, this isn't, this is why we worked on this skill, because here's an
it's not controlled. Yeah.
It's uncontrolled. So I think, that's why I was asking about your model, because, to me, I have a kid who's playing, U18, AAA. And so the last 5 years I've, been a fan and spectator watching, and I've been to a lot of the practices, and, the different models that have been tried to been used, haven't been effective. And mostly because, they didn't really teach, the basic, skill sets that were needed to do the breakouts or to do the offensive rushes. And then they expect the kids just to know it. They run the drills, but they don't actually teach it. And so your model would be to come in and, from what I'm hearing, is it teach the skills that would then progress into what happens actually in the game. And
That's ideal, yeah. And what we're seeing in those practices, and to Wally's question too about how you self-evaluate, I think that next game is very important. I think from the board or the video or your explanation to the execution in the drill is something that I'm conscious of, and I'm not afraid to stop drills. I do it all the time because I'd always tell them, like, our priority right now is doing it right, not fast. The pace will come once we start doing it right, and not afraid to stop it. The flow of and timing of the practice while we're here to teach, especially in the development session. So that's a big thing. But again, that's part of it is when you do stop, you're like, okay, quickly you're thinking like, what did I not explain this right, or what part did I not emphasize right, etc. Maybe you did, and it's just reiterating on exactly what it is. The comment of they teach themselves. Well, the first two guys didn't get it right. Well, we're not off to a great start. The third guy gets it right, but the fourth guy still goes with what 1 and 2 did. So I'm not afraid to stop and be like, look, like, here's what we got to make sure we're doing. I usually let everyone get at least through one rep, and then we quickly pause, reiterate 1 or 2 keys that we did say, but maybe they didn't register on how important it is, and then whether it's a demo or just a verbal reminder, then we go from there. And again, you take that in on yourself and trying to think, and okay, do I have to explain this better or demo it better next time? And we usually always have a demo.
Kyle, what you're doing is very important. What's more important is the coach being able to stop and make a correction that's needed. And some coaches don't recognize the stuff on the skill side. So when you mentor, and this was a session with Jordan, and I always, as a mentor, it was a formal evaluation session, and Jordan was having the girls. He had his assistants do skills between drills, and they were striding backwards. And I talked about it. They weren't striding very efficiently. And I brought Jordan over, talked to him about north-south arms, sit tall, ride a horse, and he stopped. We told them about it, and they did it. That to me is important. Like what Kerry said, it's one thing for you to see and stop, but it's another thing for the coach to be comfortable with it, to be asked to do it, and then the coach in to see, hey, they're missing this. We got to work on this. And I don't think they're quite there yet. And
I agree with that. And I think the other part is the tone and the delivery as well, right? And just you got to be patient, especially depending on we get guys U15 AAA and they're like, we should know this. You should know this. Well, they don't. So you can't be frustrated at that. They don't, and it's now our job to help.
Well, one of the things in over the last 5 years, one of my, little bit of disappointments with, our organization is that, I've watched a lot of practices and I have yet to see one coach stop a drill, and I'll just use an offensive rush, odd man rush, getting one shot out of 10, and then having that coach just take a step back. Why aren't we successful? Because and it's just unfortunate. This has been 5 years, and I have yet to see in our organization one coach stop and say, let's go back and learn how to do this thing properly, which is, unfortunate, but
and that's common throughout Canada and probably a lot of other spots too. And the word unfortunate is accurate, and it's just, again, that's a part of the end around passion why I want to help.
Kyle, I want to Mike Benelli. I'd like to bring you in. You've sort of been in and out, and I don't know what you've been able to pick up on. But Mike, I'm just going to share this with you. Kyle, you're not familiar with it, but a couple weeks ago, Michael is in the States, I believe in Pennsylvania, but I'm not sure. You can correct me, Mike. And he works with a lot of associations, and he's a hockey solutions architect is his formal title. And he was able through the coaches site, who I'm sure you know, Kyle, uh, get the Power Play app company that has an app for coaches to communicate sponsored the delivery of the mission statement exercise, which is sort of my baby from the Dave King era when we were requested to create a culture of respect in sport. And yesterday I sent an email to Kerry and I talked to the president of his association about having one coach experiment with that app, somebody who would be willing to do it. And I'm willing to pay for it for the team because it's, to me, it complements the mission statement exercise. The coach and the parent and the player, it's privy just to them, but it also can be the coach sharing stuff with everybody about what he's doing and what he's trying to do to gain respect. But there's also private communication between the three, parent, player, coach, that leads to respect, trust, and respect. So, Michael, I'm waiting to hear back from a coach that might take it on in that association, and you use it effectively. And my question, Michael, are any other coaches using it effectively, or are you just experimenting with it yourself?
Yeah, no, thanks. Well, it's in New York, but that's okay. Pennsylvania is close enough, and we're down here in the States, so I can't remember all the provinces of Canada anyway. But yeah, so I use it. I've been using it Power Player about 4 years now, almost 5 years. And we do have a lot of coaches on the platform. I mean, there's a lot of. I think what happens is there's so many different technologies out there to use. I do a lot of work with Coach Them, as Tom knows too. And I think you get comfortable in a platform, and it's hard to leave that platform. You like something, you like the way you're doing it and the way you're sharing it. So I mean, if you've never done player communication or portals where you're communicating with the parent and the player and sharing video and sharing practice plans and grading your kids and giving feedback, then Power Player is a great program to jump in on because you're basically getting in, you're not reinventing anything. You're just starting from scratch. So I think, for me, I think the most success that I've had, very similar to the conversations we have, and I have been listening in and out, just doing a project here. But the crazy thing is, Kyle, to your point, and Carrie brings this up a lot where you are, is we're all in the same boat. It's like the same problem over and over and over again. There's no, I talk to probably 8 or 9 organizations a week, and I literally could just, tape my conversation and then replay it to every organization I talk to after that, because they all have the same problems. They have board members that are very ineffective. They have people that only care about their kids and the level they're coaching. Nobody sees the vision of the bigger holistic approach to working with children in youth sports. And by the time, the people that know it figure it out, their kids are out of hockey and they're no longer involved. So it just gets, it's frustrating from that point. But Kyle, I love your approach that you say, well, listen, I'll work with the programs that want to work with me. I'm not out there looking to change the world. I'd rather, and Kim mentioned that in her conversation, right? That come to me and I'll work with you. If you don't want to come to me, then you'll figure it out, I guess, or you won't. Right. So, but as far as the Power Player goes, it's a great resource to have, to use. If any coach gets the opportunity, Wally, to have you fund that for them, if they don't take it, then it's crazy, because it's just a great program and it's addicting. Once you get in there and once you start communicating with your kids and you see the feedback you get back from the players at practice, because now, like at the youth level where I am, like I don't have 2 hours after practice to meet with my kids, but I can, quote unquote, meet with them at home when I'm watching, the Ranger game or the Penguin game, or I'm on my app and I just filling in my little, have 15, 16 kids on a team. Very, very simple to send a little note to each kid each week communicate with them, tell them what you're doing, tell them how you're feeling about their play. And guess who reads that the most? Mom and dad. And it's just a really simple way to make sure you can put people on the same page, and then adding the mission statement, adding video. This is all, cream on top.
Mike, I was going to say I call that the regime change, where just continual, every association, 4 years, a new regime comes in, tries to start reinventing the wheel, maybe get a little bit done, and then next 4 years there's another regime, and it's just all continued, and it's a mess. And but I have Wally, I've definitely know of Mike's name and follow the coaches site. We actually just signed on, I believe we're about to execute it here with the MJHL, getting all our coaches involved with subscriptions in from a junior league level. And certainly I've seen his name before, and I'd be really interested in learning about the Power Player app, because I do individual work with players, and currently I don't have that clean mechanism to work with them on through that. It's just through and it works, but it's through our text, it's through email, it's through Google Drive and things like that. It'd be great I have looked at Huddle. This sounds like maybe a little bit more applicable.
Yeah, just 1 second, Wally. I just want to jump in, Kyle. It's actually exactly how I use it, because I don't really work with teams anymore, except my own kids' team. Like I don't get the opportunity to work with a full team as much as I used to. But all the kids that I train, I put them. They get a coaching a Power Play subscription, which is really not. I mean, it's like $60 for an individual kid if you're just doing individual, and that's like my log to them. And like the quote of the year I got was like, how, and I'm working with a 16U prep school elite player right now, like a high prospect, in our area. And for a dad to email me back or text me back like 40 minutes after I gave the first evaluation back saying, how in the world after 16 years has nobody ever communicated with my son about the specific pieces of his game that is good and needs to improve? And to me, that was like a real eye opener, because I'm like, well, yeah, how is that possible? You've had elite level, high paid coaches that either A, don't have the time, don't have the energy, or just don't care about making sure that the individual player understands where they fit into the whole scheme of their own development. So I found with the, again, the Power Player I happen to use, you can use anything, but it's just the easiest way for me to see a dashboard on my phone, send a note to a kid, send a video. Like if I hear something on this call on Thursdays and I love it, I'll clip it and I'll send like a little video to the kid saying, oh, you got to hear this. This was this was a great thing that fits into what I'm talking about with you. Or if I see something on Instagram that I love, a drill that we did that I see a high performing athlete do, I might send him the drill, or an athlete doing it that's not as good as him. I'll say, hey, remember the drill we did with that top hand control? Look at this guy. Like he, and I have all my kids using gel sticks, as far as when they train, the heavy weighted training stick. So like I'll say, you were doing this with a gel stick. This kid can't even do it with a regular stick. So isn't that unbelievable? And it's just a way for me to archive my conversation with the player. And on my side, it's compliant to Safe Sport. Like the parent and the kid are in it. It's not an individual text to a kid. And the parent has full access to that communication, and they can't send me anything back. It's not that kind of a program. It's just me communicating to the player and then them having a log of, how I'm working with them and where we fit in. So it is a great resource, and a lot of the things I get from it, or a lot of the, inspiration I get for putting stuff in is exactly on this, comes from this call, which is great for me.
Michael,
Free coaches clinic.
I want to get Kerry's attention. Kyle, I can see the effectiveness of this. Kerry, you can do what Michael does. You've already talked to kids. That one kid you talked to on defense about his hips. You could experiment with this privately, and they could pay for it, where you watch them and you're connected on an app, and I could do it with you. We could experiment with communication with the players and giving them those little tactical elements that they're lacking.
Do you think that do you think that the group that you think the coach would buy in? Like, I mean, you got to be careful when you got a kid on the team, because, coaches are really threatened a lot of times whenever I'm around, Kyle, to be honest with you, and Tom, and I have to stay away from my own kids' team after all the years of having great experiences with kids, because I don't trust how the coaches are going to react to, to getting good information. They do funny things. And so, Wally, I would love to learn this power play thing and how to do it, because I go and watch a lot of games, and I'd like to be able to, use what my skill set is to help kids become better. And it's definitely something I think you and I should sit down and talk about, and maybe, hopefully the U18 coach would be, open to doing it, because I mean, he needs help. But you got to be so careful nowadays. Like when you have somebody who's involved with the program, everyone's very touchy. And I find that kind of unusual, to be honest with you. I'm not sure exactly why people don't want to learn more to help the kids. That's just been a frustrating part that I've seen.
I was just going to pull this up, Wally. I don't know if your screen froze there, but I was going to pull up. I don't know if you can see my screen, but I'm just this is that Power Player app, and it just real quickly, the way I used it with this one particular player was more for. Let me see. I think I have it under. So I have a lot of teams under here. Sorry, guys. It's a little slower. But
Michael, are you saying it's going to pop up on your screen? I don't see it.
I'm trying to see why it's not coming up. I don't know why. It says I'm sharing my screen, but maybe
I can see it.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, you might just have to. Kyle, it might be just the view you're in.
Okay, I'm gonna go to speaker view. There we go.
Yeah, and so for instance, like this is one kid. Like I made just a real quick little training platform, like just so I could house one of the kids in there. And basically, what it is now I have the players, all his information in here that I need, but it also then allows me to then view the data I'm giving the kids. So if, as I go through, it gives me a continuous kind of a log of, when I've talked to the kid, what I've talked to him about. Here's a couple of things I put in: confidence, edge confidence, things like that. And then I know the kid's read it because he can go down here and like it. So he goes, okay, got it. Here's another, little comment about his strength, little comment about his workouts, stride, our first workout. So it's just ways for you to keep a log of working out with the kids. And I don't know, and from a team perspective, I've actually used this quite a bit. Let me see I think this is the last year's team here. It just gave me the opportunity then now to, I don't know if it might not come up here because of, my own individual kids in here. That's the problem. I might be logged into, let me see if I can log into the team account. Sorry. But so now I have, now you have the ability, again, you could do this on Google Docs too, and you could do it on Excel, and there's just a million ways to do it. It's just, this looks prettier, and the kids can access it on their phone. They pull it up, and then you can see, like here, I can grade my kids. None of the kids see all this, but if I went here and I put in like my overall score of my kids and their averages, like, because I would grade the kids per event. So in this case, like this kid Declan's a high profiled kid on my team, and this kid Sean is the lowest like graded kid throughout the year, and it definitely corresponds to their play, no doubt about it. Just based off of the communication I give them throughout the year. But again,
you
it's
mentioned the comments part. Where do we see that? I guess I see the little icon.
Yeah, so here if I'm commenting to certain, like here's one here: practice fundamentals, passing, receiving. Like that's the video I would show the kids. It's probably going to just go a little slow because I'm
bogged up. You can send anything from the coach's site to them, or
Yeah, I could take any clip, and I'll just film the drill on my phone. I'll do like a screen grab and then narrate over it, and then I can send, like, so it's not my drill, it's just a drill I saw somebody doing, and then I can send them
something for them to work on, or something that visually they
Well,
can.
Yeah, it's just and for me, it's like I'm sending this to the kid, but I know the parent is seeing it. So now the
I like
parent
that
and the
part.
kid are kind of looking at it together, saying, "Oh, this is what the hell he's talking about." Like I'm watching him out there doing this, and it didn't seem to me like here we were talking about opening your hips, facing the play, facing facing where you're getting the pass, or how you're getting the pass. This is obviously a very simple drill, but the concepts are actually hard concepts. But so for me, it's a good way for me to share the drill, and then I have it so that I can archive that. And now I have it for basically for the length of time I'm talking to the kid. So
And this is called power play, Michael.
it's called the I think it's called the Power Player. Is the name of the company, and Wally actually did a mission statement workshop with them, and then Dave Mason and his crew have really evolved it. So now they have baseball, soccer. I use it for lacrosse as well. It's just another tool to use to get the kids on and use it. So it works out perfect.
And is this app based as well, or just strictly desktop?
Yeah, the way they work right now is desktop, but like I say, it's on. You can work it on your phone. So what I have an iPhone, but I just save it as like the Power Player icon on the iPhone, and then I open it up just like a regular desktop. And it works actually pretty good on the phone. I tend to use most of the time I have my Mac, but I use a Surface Pro only because I like to do I do a lot of video, so I just like the ability to write on the screen. But it's again, it's just a way for me to keep everything in one place, and all the different kids I'm coaching and teams, and it just helps me consolidate it all into one place.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at it because there's more and more individuals, and it's when you're doing 3 or 4, it's fine. But if we're gonna get up to 10 and 12, like I need something like this for sure. So it's very
and the great thing is they're not like the nobody can see the other kids' comments unless you made like a group comment to the whole group. They can't see what you think about another kid. It's just their personal page. Like when you see my page, that's my admin desktop dashboard. But when you're working with an individual kid, they only see what you felt about them. So it definitely helps. It eliminate, it helps too. You're not calling anybody out in the locker room. You're not, you can really, and you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be all, roses and chocolate either. And you could get in there and really say, well, listen, this is why this week's practice has been really bad for you, is because of this, and this, and I need you to change that. And we need to get mom and dad, and we need to have a conversation. Sometimes you don't get an opportunity, and I found like after practice I'm almost steamed up. I can go home, and then the next day I can send a note out saying, hey, we didn't have a great practice last night. Let's meet 5 minutes before practice on Friday. And it just helps everybody diffuse a lot of these situations that we keep running into all the time.
Michael, I've got a question. You've talked about this before. I'm trying to take a more positive approach. In other words, they've been not as good as they could be. So you want to sit down and talk to them and tell them about what does he have to do better. Can they respond to you if you said, how can you improve your practice performance? And see if they reply to lead to the conversation. I'm sure there will be a point where you have to get in their face and say, is that good? Not tell them it's not good enough. Just ask them, is that good enough? Is that the standard that you want to accept? You know what I'm saying? It's the idea of your frustration being disseminated to them to the point of anger, and the relationship, it's basically, it's on the kid being responsible and accountable for his or her progress.
So well, that's not my conversation. If I met with a kid before practice, it'd be like, listen, obviously, my practices, aren't helping. There's something that I'm doing that's we're not communicating on. So how am I presenting this practice plan to you that you don't like? Like, is there something you don't like? You don't like, playing games all day? What is it that you don't, what is it that I can do to help you become a better player? I mean, but and the power player doesn't allow you to have that back and forth conversation. It just allows you to kind of lay out a comment and then say, listen, I still want that human interaction. I mean, it can't all be digital. It has to be, listen, this is how I'm looking at this. Can we have a conversation Friday about this? And then if you have another perspective, I love that. I'd rather a kid tell me another perspective than shrug his shoulders and be like,
Good
I
point.
don't know.
Good point. Yeah. Excellent. No, I think
give me what it is you don't like. That's fine. I mean, I listen. There's a lot of parts of practice I don't like either. But but to Kyle's point, and you guys all have this. See, the problem is on this phone call, you all know this, right? So it's not this group that needs to hear it. It's like I had to watch a practice for a coach program I'm doing out in Long Island. And I only could watch a half hour block. So I took a half hour block. I said, all right, let me look at the half hour block. And there was less than 12 minutes of actual puck moving, skating play in a half hour of ice. And down here, ice is $6.25 an hour. So, I mean, that's crazy to me. Like, and then, the argument would be, well, if it's an 18U team and, how much ice do the kids really get in the game? And I get all that part, but how boring it was, how uninspiring it was. You could see the kids that are just in la la land, and then the coach is screaming and yelling at them and they're not paying attention. I'm like, well, what would you do if you had, if you were out there for 12 minutes skating in a half hour? So it is the calls definitely go to a point where, I think we all, it depend, no matter what region you're in, we all have the same, those same pockets of programs that do it right and don't do it so well.
Hey guys, I gotta run, but it's been awesome. Nice chatting with you, Kyle. Michael, as always,
same here.
Gordon,
Yeah,
Molly,
Kerry, great job.
and
take care, Carrie. Thanks for jumping on. And
See you,
listen,
Carrie.
to all of you, I really, Kim McCullough is incredible. Like, she does it full time. She runs, it's called, you can Google Total Female Hockey.
well, Wally, that's
the private-
probably
the
one of the biggest
Right.
challenges we're facing with the volunteer taxpayer system
Yeah.
is that the organizations, some of them have stepped up, but not to the degree that she is providing and the degree that's needed to create, a good culture. And good for her. That's it was outstanding to listen to. So, all right, we'll chat.
Thanks,
Okay,
Carrie.
everybody, I've got to run and take
Just
my
something for you to think
cat
about on that
to get
one.
team at it. So
All right. Good talk, everyone.
thanks for joining us, and you're
Yeah,
welcome.
thanks a lot for having me.
We're gonna have
Appreciate it.
Bruce
Great.
Beaton on, I hope next week. He couldn't get Skype working today, but Sammy Joe's the techie expert, and she's gonna help me get connected with him and be a great speaker. Fit
Awesome.
right in line with everything we're trying to do, making the game better. So thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Tom
Have a good-
Malloy, you want to jump on a call real quick?
Sure.
I'll call you right back on Skype,
All right.
or stay on this. It
Sure.
doesn't matter to me. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't messing anything up on your end.
No.
So, just in a nutshell, what I've been doing is I've been taking the I don't know if Wally, if you end this call, is this call going to die on us?
What's that?
When you end the call, will we get knocked off or no? We're in it.
I'll
Mike
leave
and I
it
are
on.
talking.
Yeah.
I'll keep it recording, providing you're.
You could stop it. That's okay. No. So Tom, so what I've been doing is just having a little fun.